When I was a wee boy, Crash Bandicoot was my world. From playing the original trilogy to the spin-offs like Crash Bash and Crash Team Racing to the more modern games afterwards, I love the games. And one of the games in question was Crash Tag Team Racing, a game that, despite the quite frankly confusing title and the implied gameplay from the title, is probably more fun exploring the Midway and the theme parks just outside. But that's a different topic for a potentially different video. I want to know if it's possible to beat Crash Tag Team Racing without driving. We cannot drive, whether moving forward or backward. Otherwise, I don't really have any other rules to explain. So what can we expect to see as we venture into this game and attempt a silly sounding stipulation? Well, let's check it out! It's showtime! After a bit of platforming to see its rendezvous with the rest of the racers we'll be seeing on the track, we're introduced to Cheesehead, Metalface,
my daughter, niece!
Generant Jimmy Neutron, Mr. T,
Some no good fool done stole my pinky bear!
Dr. Von Pickleman in the pickle suit, and Pasadena. For the record, Pasadena is the worst. We don't like Pasadena! From there, we're sent on our way and we begin our adventure. There's nowhere to start beyond Mystery Island, and we're already beginning to look at the tracks, the first of which being Tiki Turbo. And already, we hit a snag in the system. Yeah, we ain't street legal, and that means we can't race. I know I said we can't drive backwards, but I feel compelled to share that even if we wanted to, the game itself seems to be strongly opposed to us doing that.
Oh my god, move forward!
And will try to force us to correct our direction and drive forward. Even if driving backwards didn't feel like the game was fighting us, we're going way too slow to be able to keep up with the competition. So what's one to do? Well, the main objective of Crash Tag Team Racing is simply to collect power crystals in order to unlock new lands to explore and eventually beat the game. And there's actually a rather large variety of ways we can get power crystals in this game, like playing minigames, helping NPCs out, and just finding crystals out in the open. Now, quite frankly, I don't know where all the crystals actually are, as I have not played this game in literal years. Found some crystals in Mystery Island, went bowling, and I had about 10 crystals by the end. Now, I believe that there may not be enough crystals to beat the game, as without being able to drive, there's about 71 crystals out of the 142 that are flat out impossible to access. That's literally half of all the crystals in the entire game. So I wanted to try and skip needing to spend some of them using skips I've seen done in speedruns for this game, therefore I tried to access Happily Ever Faster early, but I don't actually know how the skip is supposed to work, and I ultimately gave up and just did this the intended way. It's unfortunate, but hopefully this won't come back to bite us later in the butt. I feel it's worth it also to clarify that there's no way to check how many crystals can be found per land in the park, so it's often best to leave no stone unturned when hunting for them. Fortunately, being in my late 20s didn't diminish my natural love for getting lost and exploring. Like Lara Croft, you bet that when I have my eyes set on something, I'm going to find it. Sadly, by Happily Ever Faster, I found that I managed to hit a wall where I found every power crystal in every area I had access to at this point in the game, and was one crystal short from being able to continue to the next park. There were no more park games to play either, so this leaves us with no choice but to finally look into the racetracks to see what we can do given we sadly lack a driver's license. Looking at our options, I can tell you that in addition to flat out racing, we can immediately cross off Fast Lap, as that requires being able to actually drive a car, let alone fast enough to actually be able to win a crystal as you're judged on time. Crashinator sounds like it has more promise, as it instead involves driving into targets on the track to be rewarded, but the problem is a foregone conclusion: we can't drive. Now, if this challenge allowed me to drive in reverse, we could actually make something happen in the races, as we could just drive backwards into an item box, jet forward as the game prefers to help us catch up, and fuse with a rival racer that's piloted by a computer player, basically letting whoever we hook up with carry us to the finish, while we provide the service of gunning down opponents and adding more boost power to propel us ahead of the pack. In fact, a previous version of this challenge did allow me to do just that, before I realized that it would make the challenge way too easy. Failing that, we'd be able to hump and dump the racers we clash with to snag secret crystals located in unlockable shortcuts to bump our crystal count up. But enough stalling. What decision did I ultimately make in order to get our boisterous Bandicoot back on his feet? To put it in simple ways, we have only two options: Rolling Thunder and Run and Gun. Both game modes that force us to be chauffeured by a CPU racer while we focus on nothing more than gunning down rivals in the case of Rolling Thunder, or exercising some aim to hit enough targets for run and gun. I'd like to explain how these two modes went now, but the characters we use here I would say are pretty important. I will say of the 8 you can race with, Pasadena and Von Clutch are generally not worth unlocking, since they both cost a power crystal to unlock, and with the few you can even obtain in the game, you'd be wise not to be wasteful. I find both Nina and Engine to be fairly good with their powerful turrets. Though no, for Nina, you'll want to fire at targets that are close by, so she can actually KO in a reasonable amount of hits. Both also have slow rates of fire, so be aware of that when aiming for racers that are farther away. Nonetheless, first unlocking Nina as a racer will net you a bonus power crystal, so you have no good reason not to unlock her when you can. Crunch and Crash both can do well against targets regardless of distance, but you're only going to be hitting one target at a time since the radius of damage is pretty small. Coco's is probably the worst, given that its ability to do passive damage is hindered when racers are in close proximity and bump into you. The damage you would be doing is reduced a lot, and the rate of fire feels slightly slower than Crash's, so I say to skip her. Meanwhile, Dr. Cortex's gun is probably my favorite, because it can be charged to hit super hard and hits multiple targets at once with a single blast. When you're grounded, it's a beast of a weapon that can net you KOs very fast, and it's what I use for the majority of the Rolling Thunder missions when not collecting footage for this video. As for run and gun, you're assigned a gunner to do the levels with. Mystery Island chains you to Crunch, Happily Ever Faster has you nicked by Nina, Coco was yours to control in Tyrannosaurus Rex, and Crash is your teammate in Toontown. Astroland, I've been forced to use Crunch and Nina for different levels, so there is no one character you're locked into using for all 3 tracks. The levels themselves aren't too much trouble, but this game is for 10-year-old kids, so naturally it's not going to be nightmarishly difficult to pull crystals out of these levels anyway. Though I will admit to being given some trouble for Pyramid Pass. To be honest, I wish I thought to do this earlier, because in vain. I went and forked over 2 crystals, thinking I'd be able to get more from the midway if I unlocked the new missions, and ended up sorely disappointed when I went through all the tier 2 missions without a single extra crystal, learning apparently the only racer here who gives you crystals is Nina. Considering that this really just meant being down 3,500 coins, I was not happy with this development. So there's my tip. Nina's the only one worth helping, and she's only worth helping once. What a world where it's actually more profitable to help one of your own mortal enemies and not your own freaking sister.
Oh, Crash! How could you?
Though it also does mean that I've used both Pasadena and Von Clutch for Rolling Thunder, and given that, I don't think Von Clutch is very good. He's kinda just the worst version of Cortex, and that should tell you all you need to know. Meanwhile, Pasadena suffers a similar weakness to Coco, where her turret can actually get caught in racers that respawn, and deny you damage that can be beneficial for building KOs. Neither are particularly good, though at least the damage is more meaningful than Coco's weapon, so she's better. So to recap, of the 142 crystals there are total to find in this game, 35 of them are unobtainable, meaning you have to race for them. 30 more are impossible, being behind both Crashinator and Fast Lap levels. 6 more can be forgotten about, being behind battle arenas and stunt parks. And 1 crystal is given by Nina, which you can only grab by spending 2 crystals to get it. In total, only 70 crystals out of the total 142 can be collected for the whole challenge. That is less than half of all crystals for the entire game. Fortunately, 70 is still more than 65, and we're able to find enough crystals for the areas we're confined to. One by one, we collect all of the gems, opening up more and more parks. I actually don't even collect the last 2 from the park games found in Astroland, or the last crystal you get from the running gun level on Your Manus is Mine. Yes, that actually is the name of the track. We open the final jump pad, confront Willy, and proceed to the final battle.
Launch aborted.
Yeah, that's it. So that was Crash Tag Team Racing without racing. Is it possible? Well, you just watched the video do just that, so I hope to God you didn't come out of this thinking the answer would be no. It's funny, I made this video to be a bit of a joke, but it ended up being surprisingly close. And it was fun revisiting Crash Bandicoot for a video, even if it was this game of all games. Maybe next time I'll make a challenge in this game where I'm only able to win crystals and racetracks and I can't use the gas pedal, kinda like how Game Champ 3000 did her challenges in the Crash Racing games. If you enjoyed this video, consider showing your support by either subscribing to the channel or becoming a channel member, much like the few who I'm showing on the screen right now. Thank you for your generosity, it's super appreciated. And if you managed to watch the video this far in, I thank you for watching.